welcome to another exciting adventure on the energy that surrounds us. I'm your host, Michael, and apologies to everyone for starting late. We were reminiscing about Indy 500 and
Yeah.
lost track of the time, and so we are here now. And tonight, we are going to be taking an adventure into a world that I know many of us are curious about. And no matter what your faith background is, you have this thought in the back of your mind of what is this all about? And as I'm sure you guessed, it is the afterlife. And so I am going to hand it off to my guest who has some really cool information to share around the afterlife. And so I'm going to let him introduce himself and what he does because I just ain't going to do it any justice. So, with that being said, I am going to hand the baton over to the one, the only afterlife extraordinaire, Regan Foster.
Thank you. Thank you, there, Michael. Yeah, I'll do a little introduction. It's a little crazy sometimes I get introduced because of what I do. So, people, just know if you heard a motorcycle going by there, actually in Los Angeles doing these sessions that I'm going to tell you about. I live up in the San Francisco area, but I do sessions all over California for people. But most of my actually is what I'm going to be talking about. Most of my sessions are for people online, all over the world. So my name is Regan Forston, and I'm past board member of the Michael Newton Institute. We call it the Newton Institute. And Michael Newton, who founded the Institute back in the 90s, as a hypnotherapist, he had a client that was, he was helping to stop smoking or lose weight. I don't know why I always forget things, but it was a standard thing that hypnotherapists do. And it was time for the session to be over. And Michael says to the client, okay, I'm going to count from 1 up to 5 and bring you out of hypnosis. And the client said, no, I'm not coming out of hypnosis. and Michael was like, what? What's going on here? And he said, well, I'm going to wake you up. And he said, why don't you want to come out of hypnosis? And the client said, because I want to go home. I want to talk to my friends. And Michael says, well, I'll wake you up. You go home and you talk to your friends. And the guy said, no, I want to know my friends. All of a sudden, his client is having a conversation in trance with people from the other side. His, parents had passed away and things like this. And Michael, who was between an agnostic and atheist at the time, couldn't believe what was happening because here's this guy. Is he crazy or what? And we said, no, I'm talking to, so-and-so on the other side. And I'd like to visit my friends back home. So Michael, being the inquisitive person and the right person for this to happen to, started experimenting with his clients. And what happened was over his career, he's assisted 7,000 people going to the afterlife and back. And in these 7,000 people that went to afterlife and back, when he would find his client in heaven and they're talking about their angels or guides, there's a counsel here answering questions and everything, Michael kept pushing the boundaries and kept saying, well, hey, you're over there, ask them about this. And, what do we do for fun over there? Does everybody reincarnate or not? Is reincarnation real? All this kind of stuff. So he published his book called Journey of Souls. There's 1 million copies out there now, Michael, 1 million copies of Journey of Souls. And he wrote a second book called Destiny of Souls. Anybody listen, matter of fact, before I forget, anybody, Michael, that's listening to your podcast tonight, what I've decided to do is just give away free ebook versions of 2 books my latest 2 books. One is called 3 Hours, 33 Minutes in Heaven. It's about my experience in the afterlife when I went, and I've been 3 times now. So it's like, this is so easy to do. It's amazing. But the second book is called Reincarnation is Real. And it's about all of the research being done right now around the world in reincarnation. It's just completely overwhelming, Michael. It's just, we've at the Newton Institute now, to finish this part about Michael, as he was getting older, he decided that, I should teach people this process that I've discovered, because I can't let it die with me when it's time for me to go. So he began training us other therapists now. Now we have about 260. End of this year, we'll have about 275 to 80 uh, Michael Newton facilitators, and we're scattered in 45 countries. So this is a worldwide phenomenon. So what we discovered is a process. This is the big reveal here. What we've discovered is a process that allows anybody to go to the afterlife and back, actually spend hours over there in the afterlife in a drug-free, scientifically structured, easy way. In other words, there's no death here. Near-death experiences are awesome, but who wants to go through what they have to go through to have that experience? So we found a way to get people in a really deep state of relaxation, and it's basically, matter of fact, people don't have to learn anything to do this, because the process we use is something that they do every time you take a nap or you go to sleep. It's just to get you into a very, very relaxed state. And just as theta waves, scientifically, just as theta waves are coming in, most people just fall asleep. I'm communicating back and forth with the client as they're about to fall asleep, and keep them right on the edge, of falling asleep. And we found out now in this research that everybody has the ability then to access all the memories of everything they've ever been before. They can easily go to a past life, their memories of being in heaven many, many times before, as they had different lives, and they always go back home to square one. And by the way, in our research, what we've discovered is we're not created in the womb as people would normally think. Our souls are actually created in heaven. And technically, there's no such thing as reincarnation, because of the fact that, it's just the way we look at it down here in the consciousness we have here. But in the ultimate consciousness, God creates us over there. That's our home. That's where we always go back to. And so what we do is we have one life, because God created us over there, but we have many experiences coming down and putting our soul energy in different bodies to have experience. So it's really one life, many bodies, rather than, the other way around, which is what most people look at. So that discovery in its own is a game changer, because now people start realizing, oh, maybe this reincarnation thing is interesting, is something. So we've done this now with 80,000 people so far, Michael. 80,000, and soon to be 90,000 now. And the success rate is, I say, with me, it's about 90 to 92%. It kind of fluctuates. When the first time, man or woman, when they come to me, we get them to this relaxed state, and the vast majority of time, they're able to have this life-changing experience, whether it's on Zoom, which is, we didn't even know we could do this on Zoom until COVID. That's one of the good things that came out of COVID, is we started experimenting, doing these sessions on Zoom, and we found out we have the same success rate. It doesn't matter whether they're in person or not. I like the in-person ones in a way, because just think about it. For most people, this will be the most interesting, uplifting experience of their life. When they find out why they were born, what their mission is, why they have their parents, why they're going through so many difficult things in their life. You find all that out when you're over there. And so when you come back from that, like for me, when I spent the 3 hours, 33 minutes over there in heaven, I don't know, something just changed in me. I just became a lot nicer person. It's like my rough edges got smoothed, because I found out what my mission is for sure. So I know what I'm supposed to be doing, which is what I'm doing right at this moment, Michael. So when I get invited on a podcast, or someone comes up and talks to me about this, or here's what I do and wants, everybody that comes in my sphere that I talk to, I just know that God sent them, and I'm supposed to help them in one way or another. Personally, now I've done just over 400 sessions myself now with clients, with a 90% success rate. And oh man, I'll tell you, Michael, this job is the best job anybody could have, because I'm sitting right next to people that are having this life-changing experience. And through them, because they're telling me what they're seeing, and then it's up to me to. Michael says, before he died, he says, I want you people that are taking over, don't get stuck in the way of doing things. here, I've got a way that we know we can get people to afterlife, but just keep pushing the boundaries, keep asking questions, pushing this further. We want to find out as much as we can about what happens on the other side. And we keep doing that. And oh boy, ooh-wee. I just tell you, what even when I had the experience and I became a therapist and I started doing this, the things that would happen, my eyes would roll sometimes like, oh my God, really? That's possible or whatever. So things that were unbelievable to me even then have now, after doing this for 10 years, have become believable. And I'm seeing, because our pre our programming, the way we've been brought up in this country is we're finding out is very narrow, on what God is and what the reality is. And everybody can tell now with what's going on, people listening now or listen to your podcast later, we can all feel there's a there's a shift going on that's tearing everything we learned about ourselves, about God and everything. It's all coming tumbling down. And that's scary for a lot of people. But with my experience, I want to have people on the other side and they ask what's happening now. What they're saying over there is we are, as a planet, our frequency is being raised. There's enough people on the planet that are aware enough about God, aware enough about the true reality of things, that it's going to cause the frequency to raise. And anytime the frequency raises, the things that worked in those lower frequencies start falling apart. That means politics, religion, everything, because as we ascend into this higher frequency, everything has to become new. It's like a new set of clothes, with a new awareness. So what they say over there is like, it's like we're going through the rapids right now and things are changing. So don't let fear make you fall out of the boat and drown. Some people are going to do that because they can't handle all this change, but it's coming. It's really coming. So anyway, that's how it all started and what I'm on the show to do today. And every time I do a podcast, it's so great, Michael, that you're doing these things, because inevitably, after doing even one podcast, I'll have enough people to call me, and I'm busy for months, because I can only help so many people. But sometimes if they don't want to do an online session or come to where I'm at, or if I can't come to where they're at, then I'll refer them to another Newton therapist that might be in their area, or their country. I did a session last night with a gentleman from Denmark. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, my time, and 9 o'clock, no, okay, well, 10 o'clock his time, 10 a.m. in Denmark. And oh, man. All right. I don't know if you want to start off this now because, okay, I don't want to lose anybody here, but I have to tell you now, I'm not making this stuff up. And this has been happening more and more and more. When I have people go to the other side, they're finding out that they have lived many other lifetimes, not just here, but in other planets, other dimensions. I mean, we think that the Earth is the only place where there's sentient life, but it's teeming in the universe. And over the last 10 years, I've had so many people that, well, let me back up a little bit and about this process, okay? When someone comes to me for a session, we found that the easiest way to get to the afterlife is to use a memory that they have of a previous lifetime when they passed away and who was there to meet them. And then, and they have that memory of going back to the afterlife before. So what we do, they get to a particular state of relaxation. Um, I'll count from 1 down to 10, and I'll say when you get down 1 to 10, you'll find yourself going through this tunnel to the other side, to another time in another place. They go through this tunnel that they see in their mind, and then they find themselves in a past life. Now, we don't spend a lot of time there, like a past life regression, because we just want to get them to their death scene, have them leave their body, and then we go to the afterlife. But sometimes you can't help but spend time in that past life because they have such fascinating past lives. Most people are going to find out that most of their past lives were, we call them digging potatoes lives. In other words, they were the pauper, or you know, they were the fodder that gets sent into the battle, like it's going on in Ukraine right now. Um, but occasionally, you'll get someone that has something that's maybe from recent history, and my clients have been able to go back and find themselves in history, which is kind of interesting and awesome. That way, people, when they call in, if you get people calling in a bit, if they have questions about past lives and stuff, we'll do that too. But here's what happens in a session. You go very, very deep into relaxation. You go through this tunnel. You come out the other side. You find yourself in another body at another time and place. And and Michael, this thing about no time and space, I'm finally getting to understand it somewhat because we're so used to everything being linear here. But when I have people on the other side and they go back to these memories, um, I can take them back to when they were a childhood, when it can go back and forth on the timeline anytime we want. Even now, I'm starting to have people go into the future and see themselves in the future because everything is now over there. It's time. It's like we have time and space here, a beginning, a middle, and end. But over there, it's already all over there, and you just go to that point. I mean, it's amazing when people find themselves in the future and how their life has changed once they've done what they learn they have to do over there to make their lives better. And then I'll ask the council over there. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll talk about the council in a minute. But anyway, let me see here because there's so much to this. And we can have an hour and a half. I could talk for like 10 hours on this. There's so much to learn. And it's so amazing and exciting. Now, I'll talk about my experience a little bit too, so people get an idea of what I experienced myself. Um, and a bit too that'll help people to understand so that I'm not just making this stuff up. Okay. So um, anyway, once somebody sees themselves pass away, I have them go to their funeral, and they're usually above their funeral, and that's always very interesting for people. I'll say, "Well, who's there at your funeral?" And they'll tell me, "Oh, my brother, or my sister, or my wife, or whatever's there." They'll see where they're buried, and then I'll say, "Now, do you need to stay here for a little while to comfort people that are grieving?" Because we find out that souls, I would say more times than not, they hang around for a little bit because people are grieving so bad and they're trying to put their energy in some way, shape, or form, whether they implant themselves in someone's dream or they show up as a holograph when someone wakes up and they can somehow use their soul energy to form a holograph so people see them. We've all probably heard stories of that. Michael, maybe I don't know if you've been to funerals, you hear always somebody inevitably says, "I can feel that he's here. I can feel that she's here right now." They
Right.
are. They are. So anybody that's having that experience, if you've been to the funeral and you had someone you loved that died and you kind of felt their presence, that was them there because that's what souls do. They hang around for us. So anyway, I'm quiet for a little while. They do that. After a few minutes, they'll say, "Okay, I'm done. I'm ready to go back home." So I'll say, "Now you have this memory now. I want you to just rise above that scene. And when I count to three now, you're going to be at the time when someone was there to meet you. So 1, 2, 3, I'll say, who's there? All of a sudden they go, oh my God, there's an angel here. There's a guide here or somebody. All these sessions that I've done, all but two have had a guide or somebody that's there to meet them. Sometimes it's a family member, who like a mother, father that's passed on, and they know that my client's having the session and they want to jump in right away. And so someone goes, "Oh my God, my mom's right here," and I go, "Good." Say, go say hi to mom. Maybe she passed away 6 months ago or 6 years ago or whatever. But the mom's up there; they're looking after you all the time from up there. So anyway, and then sometimes mom will say, "Okay, now let me take you to your guide." And so we'll meet the guide. They'll get on a first name basis. And here's the thing we discovered in all this research we've been doing with these 80,000 cases now. Um, Everybody has a guide. Everybody has somebody up there that's rooting for them, that's watching over them, that's there to help them. We all do. And most people, or a lot of people can sense this, or some people have had visions of these beings in the dream state or in meditation or something like this. And they go, gosh, I just feel like there's an angel here or a guide. Guides, angel, whatever you want to call them, masters, the words are kind of interchangeable in a way, except some of the beings over there show up with wings, like Archangel Michael. He's been in a number of sessions that my clients have had, and I'll ask people, "What does he look like?" And they go, "Oh my God, he's magnificent. He's got these wings, and he's just whatever." And so, but others sometimes it's just a ball of energy that they see. But when people get to that state and they're deep enough in trance or hypnosis or relaxation is all that it is. Um, when people are over there, Michael, they see a lot of times uh, people in their in their skivvies. It's like I say that way. It's in our basic self, we're just balls of energy over there. Okay. And we have that energy, which is conscious energy, separate conscious energy, billions and trillions of conscious energy sparks, like all parts of God. So sometimes when people see their guide or something, it's just a ball of energy. But when you're in that state and you're in heaven, you don't even question it. It's just normal. It's natural. You go, oh, there he is. And I'll say, what's he look like? But sometimes, I would say more times than not, you'll see him in some sort of physical form, and male, female, androgynous. A lot of times the guides are. So they get the next step in the process. They get to talk on a first name basis with their guide, and they're feeling like, wow, I got a guide. This is awesome, And then we tell the guide, he says, well, we have some work to do here. Now, what I do, people don't just come to me and we just happenstance, just go over there and whatever happens, happens. We do this in a very structurally scientific way where we want people to prepare to have a session. And they do three things. I send them homework to do. Number one, you make a list of the questions you want to ask when you're before a council that will appear before you, because everybody, all three times I've been over there, I've had a council and they'll answer my questions about what's going on in my life. And that's most of the time. Sometimes I've had Jesus show up, and sometimes Jesus will just answer their questions, or Buddha will answer their questions, and again, I'll get into this higher self thing in a bit too. This is going to be that's one of the coolest things in this process is coming face to face with your higher self. Now, as I'm talking, I'm segueing into these things, but each one we could talk about for probably 20 minutes or so. But since I segues into this higher self thing, in these sessions, one of the highlights is when they're at a certain point, and I'll ask them when they're in this state, in this relaxed state, I'll say, can I have permission? Like Michael, if we're doing this too, I'd say, Michael, can I have permission to talk directly to your higher self? And when you're in that state, you go, yeah, sure. And then I'll say, okay, now, am I talking to the higher self? And it'll be like, yes, that's me. Whoa. And it's like this, when people look at because all this is recorded and everything, when people see the recording of this and they see the look on their face when their higher self comes out, you can tell that it's not their personality. It's a higher self comes out and says, yes, it's me. And I'll say, oh, wow. Okay. And the first thing I'll ask is to the higher self, I said, look, when you decided to come down and be Michael, for instance, and you had a plan for what you wanted to learn and everything, right? And he goes, yes. And I'll say, how's Michael doing? Is he on task for what you hoped he would be learning? Or is he kind of, fallen by the wayside and he needs to get back up and running, back on the wagon and keep moving forward? And the higher self, a lot of times will say, well, he's okay, pretty good. But, if he wasn't so lazy sometime, they'll say, it's funny what they'll say. They'll say, he needs to eat better. He needs to do this and that because I want him to be healthy. So we start having this wonderful conversation with the higher self, which is really, really good. At some point, I usually ask the higher self to stand in front of my client so my client can actually visually see the higher self, like if they were to paint it, because I try to imprint in their mind not just feeling the higher self, but actually seeing with their two eyes or their spiritual eyes. So that really helps them to, when they come back from it and they're kind of like going, I can't believe what just happened. Was that really happening, or did I make this stuff up or whatever? Well, the more that they can see the higher self and everything that way, the more real this session becomes. And that's a question. Now, see this, because this all happens in here, somewhere. Okay. It's not physical, like this right here. It's metaphysical. It's on there. So people sometimes when they come back from it, it's so amazing that some of the times they'll go, God, what if my imagination, I just imagine all that, what if, whatever. Well, that's up for them to decide, because you can decide that or not. But usually so much happens and it's so different than they even expected. And sometimes it's very, very emotional for people because, I got so many people that cry during this because the love that they feel is like they've never felt before. All of a sudden they see a loved one that's passed on, and oh my god, they haven't seen in a while, and they, oh my god, my mom's here, and they're embracing, and it's um after they think about it for a little while, the majority go, oh my god, that was the most awesome thing ever happened to me in my life, you know. But again, like they said, Michael, we were talking about before the show, the veil is thinning. We can just feel it, where it used to be 10 foot of thick concrete to get to the other side. And now, I don't know, I would say it's about a foot of dirt.
Yeah.
Is all. Yeah, it's mediums now. Oh my gosh, mediums are coming out of the woodwork. There's so many being trained now. There's so many, and people are starting to accept that. Yeah, God has made some people have the ability to see what's on the other side without, you know, and so the session is kind of like you become a medium. In other words, you see what the medium sees, so you don't have an intermediary, and that's what makes these sessions so real and so uh, have such an impact on people because they're seeing these things for themselves, you know, um, out there. So you don't have to have a near-death experience anymore to go to heaven and back. I'm guessing this is pretty soon because we have so much research done now. Even if people say about, have we lived many lives? Well, we've done it 80,000 times. Almost everybody does it. So you know, also, I forgot to mention too, I'm also certified with Dolores Cannon School of Quantum Healing Hypnosis, which is a fabulous, fabulous training. It's very similar to Michael Newton's. And Dolores Cannon is becoming, even after she passed away, her legacy now is being carried on, and you're seeing her all over the internet now with a lot of the videos and things that she made. She wrote 18 books and about her experience having people on the other side and back too. So Dolores Cannon School of QH is called QHHT. So you can look that up or look up the Michael Newton Institute .org, and you'll see that there's a lot of information about all this on there too. So anyway, let's talk for a minute more about the higher self. The thing that shocked me that I love the most in these sessions is finding out that when you decide to be you, you don't put all of yourself in the human body. You keep the rest of yourself back home. So anybody that's on this planet right now has a higher self that's always there. If they've reincarnated again, doesn't matter. There's always a higher self that's there. I had a young man come to me that has this great new invention, and he Tesla. He's been looking up to Tesla for, for since he was a kid, and now he's inventing this kind of a magical thing. So he's before the council, and I said, "Can my client talk to Tesla for a minute?" And they said, "Sure." So Tesla shows up, and he has this 10-minute conversation with Tesla about his invention. Now, Tesla told him, said, "Well, you know, it's a little bit ahead of its time." He says, "You might not be able to monetize it." But he said to him, "You still have to invent it because this is progress." Because Tesla said, "You don't realize how many things I invented that haven't even come out yet." I mean, I invented many, many things that were so ahead of its time that they got pushed away or pushed back, but someday will probably come out. So it kind of burst my client's balloon a little bit, but yet it was, hey, he's getting it right from Tesla, and Tesla was, checking out what he invented, which was interesting. Now, I have people from all faiths. I've had Muslim, Christian, New Age people. You know, um, I haven't had a Southern Baptist yet, but I hope to. They're kind of holdouts a little bit there, but I don't think for too long. It's just too much information, coming out here about this whole thing, and it's all good. When people ask on the other side what the one true religion is, Michael, you know what they say? They say the one you choose. They said if you choose one, you must have a reason that you need to hear what they have to say. you know. But they'll say that the one true religion is love and kindness wherever you find it. He said God can't squeeze himself into one tiny little way of looking at God. It's like, everywhere, everywhere that way. But um, sometimes people pick lifetimes where they need to come down and they need to experience life from a whole different viewpoint. So they'll pick, maybe they were Christian in one lifetime and now this time they'll be a Buddhist, or next time they'll be whatever, because each one of those is like the mountain. It's like a mountain with 100 different roads that go up to the top. And you've been up these roads a bunch of times. So you go, is soul, you go, well, I've already learned this. Let me go over here and let me go up this road and let me see what it's like over there. And what that does, it just makes a more well-rounded person, as I can say. So first thing you do, you make a list of questions you want to have answered. The second thing that I have people do to prepare for a session is a list of people they want to talk to over there. And that's people that have passed on, but more importantly, talking to the higher selves of people that are in their life. In other words, when I have couples over there, each person talks to the spouse's higher self. Matter of fact, as I segue into this now, it reminded me I had a couple come to me for couples counseling because they had been to regular counseling for months and they were at an impasse. They loved each other, but they could not just get past what their issues were. So the psychiatrist knew the work that I did, and he said, well, look, this is going to be a little unconventional here, but I'm going to send you to Regan, and maybe he can help you out. So they came to me, and what I did is the first day, I had him go to the afterlife. He talked to her higher self. And then the next day she came, she went to the afterlife, talked to his higher self. And then when we found out what the situation was, we came back and it's finally broke the impasse because they finally went, you know what? We got work to do. You know, when they really could identify what the issues were. So that shows you how powerful this experience can be, even for that sort of thing, to let people get beyond their physical, petty kind of crap that they're dealing with and who's right and who's wrong, and go to the higher self and say, look, what are we supposed to be doing here? We're married for a reason, and we're married actually to wake up each other, as you'll find out. And why are we wanting to slay the messenger? Instead of embrace the messenger. It's like, hey, thank you, sweetheart, for showing me how awful I am. Or thanks for showing me how I need to be more attentive to you, or that I need to have better integrity when I'm around you, or whatever it is. And so that's one thing that even can be done with this. So um, you can talk to parents love talking to their teenage kids' higher selves. It's always about like, asking the higher self, what kind of boundaries do I need to set with you? Do I need to just let you kind of explore, or does your lower self, do I need to be like, hammer on, like I need to watch you every second of the way? And the higher selves a lot of times will counsel them about how to be the best parents to, how their children. Um, so also pets. Now this is going to make people who have pets, who are pet lovers, want to have one of these sessions, because we found out, just like most people known for a long time, animals have souls too. And when they die, they go back to the afterlife just like we do. In the research we've done, we found out that they can intermingle. They intermingle with the other souls up there anytime they want, but they prefer, when they're in that consciousness, to spend most of their time in the afterlife with a consciousness that's more like animals have. So when we have people that come to us and they've lost pets, or even the current pets you have, you can talk to the higher selves of the pets you currently have. A few months ago, it was so cute. A woman came to me. She had two dogs. She just loves her dogs. She had no children, but these dogs were her kids, and she loves them to death. So she's on the other side talking to them. And one of the dogs comes up and says, hey, hey, she says, you're giving him too much lap time and not me enough. And she's entranced, and she just laughs. She goes, oh my God, that's true. I've been favoring one. Okay. So she told me later, she said when she got home, she just made sure to give that dog a lot of extra loving, because he was, feeling a little left out. So that's some of the humor stuff that happens over there. Some people had pets as childhood. You had a childhood pet, and it was the first time you experienced the death of something that you loved. And that was very traumatic for kids sometimes, because they have this pet and they're with them every day and they're loving them and things. And then the pet dies or gets run over by a car or something. And, that's when they realize death happens, And so it's nice when sometimes they can have a reunion with those pets. Sometimes you're going to find, especially with cats, when they're talking to cats over there, the cat will say, well, I'm already, part of myself is already in the new cat you have. didn't you see me that I incarnated in the so and so? And that because a lot of times cats will come back quick and they'll come back, and somehow find you and be in your life again in the same life. Um, One of my clients, when she's an artist, and her cat was always mischievous, and she had this statue one time that she was sculpturing, and the cat went up and knocked it off, and it broke into pieces. And she was so mad at the cat. But it's a cat, so what can you do? So the cat died a couple years later, and a few months later, she had a new kitten. And one day, she's looking at the cat, and she's going, "You remind me a lot of." Whatever the cat's name was, the cat jumped up, went onto the TV, and bam, and knocked the thing off the top of the TV and broke it. And so she goes, "That's you, isn't it?" That's when she knew that cat would come back again. So another client of mine, she sold a company. She had invented over 400 products for dogs. She never had children of her own, but she always had dogs. And they were her kids, and they would come and go. That's the thing about you get so attached to dogs, but we outlive them generally. Okay, so you got to know at one time there's time you have to put them down because they're in so much pain or something happens. That's a hard thing for people to do. But anyway, she found out that she was born, her mission in life was to come down and be an advocate for dogs. And also became clear. She goes, "Oh my God, that's why I invented all these things and stuff." So she's retired now, and she just invited us to a table. She set up a fundraiser for the Humane Society in our county and is working with the Humane Society, helping them raise funds. We went and sat at her table. She goes, "Oh my God, I'm retired, but here I am helping dogs, animals. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting at this table and they had this auction, and then people raise, we'll give 50,000. They raised 300 and something thousand. That's in Marin County. I have to put my hats off to Marin County people. They're animal lovers. And one night they raised $300,000 for the Humane Society. So, her having this session really helped her to clarify what she's going to be doing for the rest of her life now. And that's really consciously being an advocate for dogs. So anyway, that's about the pets on there, because that's a lot of people wonder, well, what about my pets? Do they go to heaven? You go, yep, animals go to heaven too, that way. Third thing, also too, because you can talk to the higher selves of people. Boy, and I could segue into this now too. Boy, oh boy. I would say at least half of my clients that come to me are over 50. Oh, maybe 60, 70% are over 50. And it's kind of ironic in a way that, like me, I'm 77 now. I was 66 when I had my session. And then I found out what my purpose for living was when I was 66. And I thought, well, isn't this kind of like, it's like the credits are running and now I find out what I'm supposed to be doing. And no, it's like I was a retired therapist until I had an interest in this. I went and got the training, and now I'm back like full time, and loving it and realizing, okay, I'm an old guy, but I'm doing my mission, what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what feels so wonderful about having this job. I'll probably be doing it till whatever time it's time for me to go. So the third thing now, and this is really a awesome, awesome thing. Most people that come to me have some sort of illness of some sort, or they have a stack of medications on their drawer, for heart problems or back problems or cancers or whatever they're dealing with. What we discovered is when you're on the other side, they are more than happy to furnish a healer to talk to you about your health issues. And so usually I'd like to do it. There's a place of rejuvenation, which is another thing we can get into in a bit too, where people go. But sometimes at the place of rejuvenation, we'll ask for a healer. But more times than not, it happens when they get their questions finished from the council. And then I'll bring up to the council and I'll say, well, my client here, thank you for answering all their questions. That was really awesome. Thank you. But my client has some health issues. And can we have a healer come and talk to them and discuss it? They always say yes. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to count to three. 1, 2, 3. And I'll say, who's there? And they go, oh my gosh, there's some being, some angel or some doctor, like heavenly doctor there. We'll get their name, and then we'll start talking about the health issues they have. That's a revelation in and of itself for people when they realize why, in a sense, they've made themselves sick. Okay. Most people are going to find out that it's wrong thinking. Uh, it's that they're holding back anger. For people. They've not forgiven people that have done them wrong before. They have a sense of wanting to get even or something. And the big one is, Michael, they'll say you're lacking it. You don't have enough self love. That's the big one. And that happens. It's so, sometimes we're the last one to forgive ourselves when other people have forgiven us. And sometimes we loathe ourselves, or we go, oh my God, I should have never done that horrible thing. And we have a hard time forgiving ourselves. They want us to get over that. Like, come on, you're not that person anymore. As long as you've learned your lesson from it and you don't want to do that again, if you want to do it again, go ahead and that's up to you. But they mostly say they want us to be able to look in the mirror and look into our eyes with love and say, hey, dude, you're perfectly imperfect and that's good enough. And I love you. No matter how many screw ups you've had in your life and how many things you've done, you've learned from those things, and you become a better person because of those things. So let's get on with it now. Let's talk about who you are now and who you're becoming. And that's what they're really interested in. They want us to really concentrate on looking ourselves and saying, look, we're okay. We screw up sometimes, but big deal, everybody does. We're learning here, kind of thing. So I phew, I've just been amazed. I've had a couple of times in the last couple of years, two times, where my clients have had a healing. Like we'll always ask for healing. We'll say, has my client learned their lesson from this thing they were going through, that what was supposed to teach them? And if they say yes, I'll say, well, why do they have to have this anymore? Can't we just heal it? And they'll say, okay. I had a woman laying on my couch, my therapist couch, and she came in with a cane. She had a frozen hip, and so she had to walk with a limp. She found out during the session that the reason she had created the frozen hip was because she was getting ready to retire from her job. She was going to lose her work family, who she loved dearly. 40 years of working with these people, they became like me. Even she loved some of them more than family. Even all of a sudden, she's not going to be seeing them anymore. She's going to have a lot of pain from that. She also joked and says, like, if my husband says he wants to make me lunch every day, forget it. He can do it himself. He says, I'm going to be around him more. I love my husband, but not 24/7. It was kind of funny that way. But there was a little bit of there, like, okay, now what are we going to do? And she was going, I don't have any hobbies and things. Am I just going to be sitting around? So a lot of fear. So they told her, in your mind, you've created your hip uh, so that you can't move forward. It was just like a physical kind of thing, freezing her hip, because it was a sense almost metaphorical about I can't move forward, or I'm afraid to move forward. But anyway, they had a nice talk with her. She finally said, oh, I understand. It's going to be okay. Because they showed her she had an amazing future coming up. And that got her kind of excited. So we said, can she have a healing? So right in front of my eyes, she's laying on the couch and she's moving around. All of a sudden, a big old loud pop, and her hip went right back in place. And she was able to walk out without a cane. So I went, okay, this is pretty cool. I had another cancer. She's 84 years old. She's 89 now, stage 4 rectal cancer. She's supposed to be checking out at any time. And we did that session with her. And now I haven't heard from her this year, but for 4 years now, every time when she has a birthday, she sends me things saying, I'm still kicking here. My cancer's not taking me out. And I go, good, because they whatever they did over there, she attributes it to that. Um, so anyway, it's possible to have healings that way. Last night, now the session I did for the gentleman from Denmark. I never mention people's names and things because I want to keep their stuff private. Although some people say, "Hey, if it'll help somebody, tell them what my session was like." And a lot of people have given me permission to tell their stories. Um, but I met a healer, and the healer's name was Zen. So I start talking to Zen, and my client had been bedridden for a long, long time. We found out that he had planned to come down and to have a body where he would be caused to have an illness that would keep him in bed for a long time because of some things he needed to learn about. They say that if you don't see how important and how special it is to have someone to love, and then all of a sudden you're bedridden and you have nobody in your life to love, all of a sudden you see how special that is. Okay. So sometimes people need to learn that, that way. And he somehow from other lifetimes or something needed to learn that in here. But they said he has learned his lesson. And, we are confident that he's learned his lesson. He suffered enough, and we're going to go in and work on him for a while. And it may take, or slowly over a year or two. He's going to be being healed. So Zen says, go in and ask the higher self some more questions and stuff. I'm going to be working behind the scenes. I'm going to be working on him. He said for your time in Earth about an hour. So just go ahead. So then I say to Zen, then I'll say, okay, higher self, now can you come out? And Zen goes, yeah, I'll be here. And then the higher self comes out. So now I've got my client, the higher self, and I have Zen. So I've got three characters that are in this scenario. So anyway, for that hour, he went in there, and every once in a while, Zen would chime in and says, I'm working on this now. I'm balancing this part of his body for this. I'm going into the different organs now. I'm doing this. And so Zen was keeping me track of what was going on. So anybody out there that wants to have a session, you want to deal with your health issues, we can really dive into that. Now, um, I'm just going on and on and on and on, Michael, here, and I can just keep on going. But do you have a question you want to ask, and then I'll segue into to another part of this.
I do have an interesting question for you because you mentioned listing the names of people to talk to, like their higher selves, whether they're here or on the other side.
Yeah.
What about if, let's say, for example, hypothetically, you have like a family member who you absolutely do not talk to,
Oh.
and they're on the other side now, and they want to talk to you about what was going on and why what happened. Do you ever have the chance, or not chance necessarily, but that type of person come in and like trick the person in the session to hear from them and make amends, or does it always stay, nope, I wasn't invited, so I can't go in?
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is a very important thing. And when people make a list of who they want to talk to over there, I usually say the good, the bad, and especially the difficult. Okay, because when you're on the other side, you have a chance to find out why your relationship is so difficult with somebody. Okay, here's a good example. Well, okay, two examples. The first one is a woman who came to me who had a father that was very militaristic. He never held her. He never no much physical contact ever in her life. He was always there for him. He never abused her or anything like. He was just distant all the time. So she was always trying to get his attention, always trying to get his approval. She'd bring a report card with a B, and he'd say, "What's wrong with you? You should get an A." So she never felt good enough. Well, she was just starting to build a relationship, she thought, a little bit. Her dad was in the 60s now, and she was in her 40s. And then he dies of a heart attack. So she was devastated because I never got to really connect with my father. So, and then her session was so interesting too. She goes into trance. We get her to that really relaxed state, goes through the past life, meets her guide, and then all of a sudden she finds herself in a level of heaven. And it was like the way she was describing to me, it reminded me of like people waiting for a train or a subway or something where, you have the platform, and everybody there was wearing brown robes. And so, I said, well, I wonder if your father's here. So I said, go up and ask somebody, tell him your father's name and ask if he's one of these in this group here that's waiting for, I don't know, maybe the train's coming by to take them somewhere. Maybe they just died or something. We didn't know. So he asked someone there, and then someone says, "Oh no, he's probably," and pointed up. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to count to three. You're going to rise up above from that, maybe as if to go to a higher level." She goes to a higher level. All of a sudden, she's standing on a platform. Everybody's wearing blue robes. Okay, so this made me think about maybe the level of understanding the souls are in heaven, and maybe they're all going, similar group with similar group. So we asked someone there, "Is her father here?" And they said, "No, he's probably," you know. So She rises above that. All of a sudden, there's this golden door. And I go, oh my God, a golden door. I said, maybe you're supposed to go through it. I mean, you wouldn't have a door if you weren't supposed to go through it. I said, I'm going to count to three. I want you to see your hand on the handle there. And so she did. I said, just kind of walk through the other side. And I'll never forget the look on her face, Michael. She's in trance and she's kind of like, what? What? And I said, what's going on? She goes, there's my dad. And I said, well, where are you doing the face thing? And she goes, he's smiling at me. And she started crying because she never felt a genuine smile from her dad ever. And here she's in heaven. She sees her dad. He's smiling at her. She's feeling love for the first time. It was almost too much for her to handle. She starts crying. And I said, okay, just enjoy that feeling. I says, I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. I want you just move over to him and have a conversation. And I want you to ask him why was he that military dad to you? Okay. So I'm quiet for a little while. A little bit later, she goes, "Okay, my dad and he's still here, but I can tell you what we're talking about." I said, "Did you ask your dad that?" And she said, "Yeah." He says, "Daughter, what you don't remember is we had this all planned. Okay, you asked me to be your father in this lifetime, and you said you needed to have a father that was very distant, father was very strict with you, that didn't show you much attention, because." In other relationships in their lifetimes, you'd always been too codependent with people. You never could set boundaries. You were what you consider to be a weak when you incarnated as a woman. You were weak, and you wanted to be strong and to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And she's going, God, that's the person I've become. And I said, yeah, because you planned this with your dad. He was going to do it. So he hugged her. They got to talk for a while. I'll tell you, after that session, she goes, oh my God, I finally have my dad now, because she realized that she'd signed up for this, and that too. So that happens. Now, I have people sometimes that have been very severely abused by people, women, rape, incest, oh my gosh, violence, that sort of thing. And so I ask them, when people around me, they just tell me everything because they know there's no judgment here. We all know that everything's been really tough. And I'll say, thank you for sharing that with me because we can do something about that. Well, because I'll tell them, you still have some negative energy in your body, don't you? That's from the new go, yeah, even if it happened 30, 40 years ago, it still bothers them when they think about it. So I say, let's see if we can get some healing about that. So I had this one client, and this will help segue into the place that people go there. Usually what I do when they pass away from the past life, they meet their guide. I'll ask the guide, I'll say, look, we know there's a place here to be rejuvenated, a place for healing. Can my client go there first before they go to the council or the soul group? And they always say, sure. So when I count to three, immediately they're there. The client will describe to me, it's usually some beautiful setting. I can just see it through their, what they're seeing for their mind. It's just a place like a heavenly spa of some sort. And there's usually a healer there or someone to walk people through the process of rejuvenating. So gosh, I have so many clients, and I'm seeing 5 or 6 or 7 of them right now. So this might be a hodgepodge, but it'll give you the point so you know what happens here. One of my clients, she was molested by her uncle when she was 5 years old, and she was this little innocent little girl, and it shifted something in her, and she's in her 60s now, but she never was the same after that happened, and and so we what I did is I asked the angel. I said, I'm going to ask if something's possible because I know there's no time and space over there. I said, can her 5-year-old self show up for healing from that thing that the uncle did? And the angel said, sure. So immediately she's in trance right there. And I said, you see your 5-year-old self? She goes, yes, she's here. And so she went over to her. I said, now you're the older you. This is the younger you right here. And you're the older, wiser one now. So you're going to be like a mom to your younger self. I said, I want you to take her into this rejuvenation place with her. And I want you to talk to her and tell her everything eventually is going to be okay. Your uncle was just, he was off, doing his own thing and did this horrible thing to you, but we have to forgive him and we have to move on from it. And you're going to be okay, So I was quiet for a while. She takes her 5-year-old self into the place of healing. And after a while, I said, knock, knock, in a way. I said, what's going on now? She says, oh, I'm feeding, I have a cup and I'm giving this healing water to my younger self. And I'm holding her and I'm telling her everything's going to be okay. And that was an amazing session. She goes afterwards when we're talking, she goes, that was so, I mean, it was like she was right here and I'm talking to my other self and I'm holding her and and she felt so much healing from that. So not only do you have, I mean, that's sometimes the biggest thing that happens in these experiences too, when I take someone to the other side and back, is they receive some healing. Their PTSD disappears, from traumas, because they're willing to let people, go through the healing process over there. Had another client, she was abused 5 different times in her lifetime since childhood, 2 times in the army. She was in the army. She had two army guys over there that abused her. Even went to trial, and one of them got one of the guys kicked out of the army. So I said, can her 5 selves show up? And all of a sudden, she's there, and there's her as a child, as a teenager. When all these things happen, she's with all of her other selves there. I know for some people now, I'm just telling you, but this stuff's real because it happens over and over and over and over again now that we're doing this work. So don't let me, don't go, oh my, don't, even if you're rolling your eyes now, which I'm sure I would have rolled my eyes a few years ago, but not now because this happens too much. And I see so much healing that comes from this, all the possibilities that there are from visiting the afterlife for a few hours. So she had an amazing time. Also, 3, we asked, can any of the higher selves of the people that abused her show up? And uh, there was 3 that she mainly mentioned. The other 2 she didn't, care about, but 2 of them showed up. And both of them knelt down before her and asked for forgiveness. And they said, man, I am so sorry for what my lower self, because the guys were still alive in this life, but the higher selves just apologized. And they said, we are just, so sorry and whatever. My client was so big and so much of a loving person. She takes these 2 guys that are there by the hand and she goes, you two need healing. She took them in to be healed, even though they were her abusers. Can you imagine how beautiful that was, Michael? That was, I mean, I started crying. I mean, she's doing this. I mean, someone that's
Yep.
so loving to forgive her abusers and take them to be healed. The third one now, we're waiting for him to show up, and the angel there said he's not ready yet. He's still living and he's in such a bad way we can't even get his higher self to show up. He says you're going to just have to learn to deal with that. And she says okay. So you never know, it's not always perfect over there, but in a way that was perfect because that was the truth to things that happened over there.
Right.
This place of rejuvenation, a lot of times there's waterfalls, water used, there's like pools, healing pools. Maybe that's why we love jacuzzi so much, and we love to just, it's this place where we can feel our bodies just relaxing and that. And I get all kinds of descriptions. Some people don't want to leave that place. One person said, it feels like I'm laying in this pool and my body is a billion little tiny BBs. And it feels like they're cleansing every tiny BB in my body, and they said it just feels so good. Um, and sometimes they stand under a waterfall. And once they stand there, and I says, well, does it feel wet like a waterfall? And he goes, well, it says, well, tiny bit, but it's mostly colored like a waterfall of all these colored energies, like a waterfall of energy going through the body that's cleaning and cleansing and, and healing them, that sort of thing. Um, so I have, in these 400 I've done, I've got just, I could talk for hours about all the types of healing that's done there, but I'm getting better and better now. I mean, when I did my first 100, I was pretty good. I always had about an 80, 85% success rate. Now it's up to about 90, 92. Oh, and by the way, now there's always some people that the first try, they don't have success for a lots of different reasons. And I tell them not to worry. I said, look, just hang in there because what I do is I'll schedule a second session for them. And I don't know if any of the therapists does this, but I want them to have the experience. So what I do is I cut the fee in half. It's normally 500 and the sessions last 5 to 6 hours on an average. Okay. So these are long sessions. Okay. It's an all day kind of thing. Second time they come, most of those become successful because something happens between a first and second session. I think maybe it's a lot that their mind doesn't get in the way because it knows what's going to happen. They know the procedure, so their mind can just more relax and allow themselves to go into a deep sleep or a deep relaxation. That way. So now some people want to start and just put their tiptoe in a bit. and they'll say, well, can we just start with doing a past life regression? I'll say, sure, we can do that. If that's successful, then we'll plan and do the whole, where you get the whole meal deal, where you get to go over there and back. And I have fun with those because then we spend a lot of time in the past life. I had one recently that was very interesting. Actually, she was a client that came to me. Oh, and by the way, two people out there, when we're talking about traumas and things, I have been a trauma specialist for over, well, about, oh yeah, over 20 years now. It's 2008. No, excuse me, 18 years. I can't get my math right now, 18 years. And I've been specializing. Most of my clients are women that have PTSD from rape, incest, or violence. And so many, oh, I mean, what a wake up call it was for me to start doing this work and seeing how prevalent it is in society. And so many women have been hurt by this. Well, I do regular hypnotherapy also, besides these, going to the afterlife and back. So if you have a family member or somebody that needs help with PTSD from trauma, um, on my website, on the visittheafterlife.com, now there's a traditional therapy page, and you'll see 4 veterans there that have severe, I mean, they're like this when they're talking about their issues. They have severe PTSD. And watch what happens with 4 sessions of what we call EFT. It's called tapping or emotional freedom technique. Um, we could do another, sometime, this would really help your listeners too sometime. Um, Michael, if we did a whole thing on all these new energy techniques that are being found out now, where we can manipulate people's energy, and PTSD can just go away. They don't have to go to talking therapy anymore for years and years and years and years and years and years, which sometimes you do. Usually in 3 or 4 sessions, people have a semblance of normalcy. God's allowing us now to find these modalities to just, get people better, that way. And you watch the videos on there. There's also a new thing called havening touch, when you can learn it to do it yourself in 5 minutes. It's amazing. And they're having PTSD disappear sometimes in less than an hour just by doing it. It's just these different moves that you do it in. And what it does is it manipulates energy in your body so your body can heal itself. And I've seen miracle after miracle happen with that. So anyway, just wanted to segue in that because some people, they're not ready to go to the afterlife, but they have PTSD. And if you want someone who's been doing it for 18 years and helping hundreds of people, they can always get a hold of me. And even on Zoom, it can be in person or on Zoom, and they can get help. No need to have PTSD anymore for the rest of your life. EFT is one of the number one things they're using for veterans now. They're using for veterans. So let me turn the light on here because it's dark where you're at now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it's just 8 o'clock
And
here and it's dusk.
right, and I do have a interesting question, about, going to the afterlife and where I was going with it, and I'm glad we went where we did, but I was thinking, so I'll use my personal life as an example, is I have a grandmother who pretty much had nothing to do with me my entire life. I didn't even know when she died
Mm.
because it was like, and haven't shed a tear about it. But I'm curious if I go and do this session of going into the afterlife and say, I'm talking to family and everything. Does she have the right to enter my space and say, hey, I want to talk to you, even though I was never there for you in the real world, as we call it?
Yeah, I
Or, how does that work? Because personally, I wouldn't want to talk to her because I'm like, there's nothing to talk about. You were never around.
yeah. So think of it this way. Uh, when you decided to come down and create a play, like if you're in the audience watching your life, there's, you know, act 1, act 2, act 3, act 4, and new people keep coming from behind the curtain on stage and then they leave. And some people are just in the periphery. You never really see them. They're just there. I've had grandparents sometimes just come in unannounced, but when I've had grandparents that people loved and missed, we ask that they put them as part of someone they want to talk to. And when we bring up their name, that's when they appear. It's like we invite them, and they that seems to be one of the rules over there, that nobody wants to encroach on you ever on your space for any reason whatsoever unless they're invited, you know, uh, that way. What we usually do when my clients, an average person has a half a dozen to 10 people maybe they want to talk to over there. Um, and when we're finished with that, I'll say to the guide, because your guide's always with you, I'll ask my clients, where's your guide right now? They're usually over to the right, to the back. They just kind of stay there holding space for you, letting you do your thing with your soul group of all these people you talk to. So we'll ask the guide there, says, is there anybody that my client should have asked to see? Or is there anybody that wants to see him that we didn't ask for? And occasionally I'll have someone come forward. The one I'm thinking of, all of a sudden my client, he jumps a little bit, goes, oh my God, my music teacher from when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, there's Mr. So-and-so. And he hadn't put him on the list, but then he remembered that teacher when he was a young kid was kind of like a dad to him and was very nurturing and mentoring. And the music teacher just said, well, I just wanted to tell you how nice it was seeing you as a kid and all that. And it was a very pleasant thing, but he didn't think to ask to see him, that
Right.
way. The same thing we do when you go before the council and you ask your questions. We'll say, did my client think of everything you should have asked, or can you give him some parting wisdom to take with them, which we leave the council? And they'll always have something, some sort of thing, or they'll say, well, maybe you could have asked about this or that. So we always want to, I don't know, I'm getting, the more sessions I do, the more thorough I'm getting. That's why my sessions are getting a little longer and longer. But I figure if you're in Disneyland, hey, let's go on all the rides instead of just a couple, and
Right.
let's see what we can get done. Um,
And I have another question when dealing with the
mhm.
council, because you had said, you know, has my client, done what he needs to do or gone off course? Has there ever been a time when they go, well, he did go off course, but he's exceeded where we thought, and it's like we don't want him to go back to do. We like where he's at now
Oh,
and doing what he's doing. It's like, whoa, we didn't see this coming.
uh,
Has that
well,
ever happened?
Not exactly like that. Um, well, first of all, too, because this is a question some people have, there's never any condemnation over there of you as a soul and what you've done is even as many. And I've had clients that have told me some things that, oh my golly, they've really done some stuff. But we all realize we've all made mistakes. It was part of learning. They've learned their lessons on that. But they never point the finger, or they'll never. And that's the thing that we've found out too. There's no, in all these 80,000 and the 400 I've done myself, there's not been an ounce of any type of dark matter, of any negativity, of the devil, of hell, of any of that. This all happens above all that. Okay. There may, in a certain level, down lower levels of frequencies, that kind of stuff may be, and I think that it serves its purpose because it's like a training ground for people where they're tested constantly. Some people call it the devil. And, uh, you know, um, in early Judaism, they didn't have a negative they didn't have a negative thing to say about what we call the devil. They called the entity the tester. In other words, that he worked with God, and it was his job to test you, to put things in front of you, to have you make decisions to see if you're going to do the right thing or the wrong thing. So it was just about like a good teacher at school, that doesn't let you get away with anything, that says if you're going to graduate, you need to know every single thing in this class. Otherwise, you're not to this level yet. And that's the way they looked at it. At some point, there's a book. I think Elaine Pagels wrote it, from Columbia University. She's the one that's a head of religion studies uh, and teachings over there. And she wrote a book. And it's all about the history of the devil and how it's shifted and changed over centuries and stuff like that. But I what I've been kind of told is that once you raise your frequency, your love quotient, to how you are as far as having integrity and love in your life. And once you raise your frequency, you don't get tested by that dark matter anymore, evil spirits or anything like that. That's you graduated in a sense. I've never in my life, even growing up Catholic and having all that guilt stuff, um, I've not passed tests before, but it was me that didn't pass it. Wasn't because the devil made me do it, or something. It was just me being tested. Um, and that's, let me, this is a good way now. We have about, 15 or 18 minutes left. And there's so much more to this. And I do free phone consultations. So anybody that wants to call me and just talk about this, there's no I never talk anybody into having a session because that would be against spiritual law. I just give out the information. They'll know because people come to me and they'll go, Regan, you don't have to talk me into this. My higher self or somebody is pushing me to do this, and people will just know. Some people only need to hear about this to have a boost in their spirituality because just knowing that this is possible, knowing that they were born and they have a mission to accomplish, that there's a reason that they were born. A lot of people, they really know, they have a feeling because they're doing their passion and they know that that's what they came here to do. But just finding that out, and also having all these hundreds of thousands of people saying heaven is real, they don't need to know any more than that. They just go, yeah, heaven's real. I've got an angel. Great. And I'm down here to do this job. When I went the second time to the afterlife, one of the questions, I went before my council. I said, "What's up, you guys?" I said, Late C. He's been on my council all three times. He's a Chinese-looking gentleman, and he's got these loving eyes and he's so funny. Oh my God, he makes me laugh every time he looks at me because he's got so much joy coming from him. I asked Late C. I said, "Why are you allowing us to do this? I mean, this is like so awesome, allowing people to see what it's like over here." He said three things that they want people to get out of the session. The first thing is that their life has meaning and purpose, that they didn't come down here happenstance. They chose this life. They chose to come down here to learn certain things. And everybody needs to be on task for what they came down here to do because you don't want to get back to the other side as some souls do. And they go, oh, why did I got into drugs and sex too much and blah, and I didn't do what I came down here to do. And now I got to go down and try it again. So they want people to be on task right now, especially with the shift. If everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, like you're doing this podcast, which is wonderful. I mean, so many people that wouldn't even have heard about what I do and the other things that you do, they would have never known about that. So it goes into all of us, and you're doing a really good service as a coworker now by helping people wake up, to this higher levels of consciousness. So that's really good, Mike. And so they want you to know that your life has meaning and purpose. You have a mission that you're on, and when you're on the other side, you'll come out of it knowing what your mission is and what you're supposed to be doing. The second thing is they want you to know you're never alone, because the worst thing is when we're in our worst despair and we feel so alone. We feel like nobody understands us, nobody loves us or whatever. Your guide or angel is always as close as your heartbeat to you there, loving you and knowing you're okay. And that's why sometimes only thing people need to do is acknowledge that they have a guide or an angel, and then you'll start hearing everything. Because again, the angels and stuff don't interfere with us. They might kind of whisper sometimes, but we don't hear because we're so closed off. But once you open your ears to what they're trying to tell you, it's like having a life coach with you all the time, and it's through your intuition. You'll just have an inner knowing that God is speaking to you through, his workers and stuff like this to help you do that. Okay. Third thing is, okay, your life has meaning and purpose. You're never alone. And the third thing is that for 100%, you know that there is an afterlife and that you're an immortal soul, that you never die. Okay. So they're hoping that those three things alone will get you to come down and do what you came down here to do. And that's to be on task. So that's the main purpose. They want everybody to be on task. So what if you live past lives or not? Okay. It's incidental, and knowing about how did God create this, and was there ever an Adam and Eve, and was Moses real? Did the Red Sea part? That's all incidental stuff. It's like you came down here to be in this class right now. You're taking life probably 101 if you've been here 100 times or something, and you're here to accomplish something. So put your attention on that. The other stuff is, you'll know that, when you go to the other side, you go, oh yeah, hey Moses, how you doing? You know, kind of thing. That's it. So I'm going to tell you now about the biggest thing that happened to me that really changed my life when I was spent 3 hours, 33 minutes over there. And that was actually happening after I went to the council. And the council, I found out that I was on task, that I'd made some missteps, but I was now back on task again. There was a female guide over there. She's wearing a hoodie. I didn't know it was female until after Late C talked to me, she goes, shoot. And it was this beautiful female angel or guide. And she says to me, Regan, I'm really proud of you and happy that you've done very good at balancing your male and female energy in this lifetime. And I remember for the council, I went, yay, because I know that had been, if people read my book, which I'll send people the free ebook. All they have to do is request it on my website if they've listened to your show, and you'll see that's part of there where part of my life's journey down here was to balance the female energy that I was born with the male energy so that it doesn't get neglected. Because we find out we're born both masculine and feminine, but one's more dominant. And sometimes because it's dominant, we think the other one doesn't matter, but it does matter, if we want to have a well balanced life. That's how I became a better listener and started to be okay crying in front of somebody, or, crying at a movie, where before it was like, I'm a man, I don't cry at movies, kind of thing. So anyway, I was coming back from all that, seeing my mom and dad and finding out my mission is, finding out I'm doing okay. And then I'm above the earth. And I know it's so cool because now I know what the astronauts see. Only I was further out than any astronaut, I believe. And because the earth was just a tiny little speck in the distance. Even from the moon, you can still see the earth is pretty big, but earth was pretty small. And my guide, Rebazar, he was still with me. And I was just kind of like Superman, just kind of flying back down to earth. I'm glad he was still with me. And as I got kind of in the earth's orbit, in a sense, I said to my guide as we kind of slowed down, I says, man, that earth, look how beautiful it is. I mean, it's just floating in space, and you can see the oceans and the mountains, and yeah, man, what a gorgeous place. And then he stopped me, and we stopped cold. He said, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you sure you want to do this work? And I knew he meant the work that I'm doing right now, doing these things for people. And I'm in trance, but I screamed, yes. Actually, I said a naughty word, but because it was coming from my gut, yeah, yes, like this.
Right.
And then he said, okay. So we started the earth was getting a little larger, and then I'm in trance, and all of a sudden I'm starting to feel this horrible emotional pain. And I told him, I said, oh my God, this is awful. He says, okay, let me stop you again. He says, now that you've decided to do this work, Regan, you've opened yourself up to be more empathic, and you have more of a tendency to feel the pain of other people. And he says, right now, you're feeling just a billionth of the earth's pain that's going on right now. And I happen to think at this moment, when I was looking down at earth, it's like, if you and I right now were in a spaceship and we were there together looking at earth, and looking down, we'd see bombs going off, people getting killed. I mean, there's so people crying, funerals. Oh my gosh! And it really gave me this overview of how much pain is actually going in this school we call the Earth. Okay, so he said, I'm going to tell you 4 things to do, and if you don't do these 4 things, your physical body won't be able to handle what you're doing and doing this work, and you'll die. So I said, okay, can we stop for a second here? I want what? I just signed up for this and I didn't know what I'm signing up for. But he says, look, you're going to be okay, but you got to do these 4 things. And I think people listening, this is going to help everybody, not just me. He says, and then all of a sudden in my vision, I'm seeing an hourglass, and I'm seeing myself. This all happens in an instant, but I'm seeing myself decline and climb and climb. And I see in that hourglass, sand is piling up, piling up, piling up. None of the sand is going down into the bottom in the hourglass. And that was a visual image showing me if the sand gets to the top, then I'm going to die. So I got to find a way. I got to find a way to balance my energy so the sand everything just goes through and doesn't stick with me. So he says, do these 4 things. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing he wants everybody, I'm sure, not just me, but I'm sure he knows I'll be telling this prayer to other people. As you wake up in the morning, declare yourself as a vehicle for love, as a vehicle for spirit. And in a sense, you're telling yourself, okay, today I'm going to put way more pluses on the board, not too many minuses. Okay. Hopefully all pluses would be great, but sometimes inevitably we do a few little things, or at least I do. So anyway, he says, and I heard a prayer in my mind. It said, bless this day and those that I serve as I keep 1 foot in heaven and 1 foot planted firmly on earth to accomplish my mission at any cost. Okay, and I heard that prayer and I went, okay, I can do that. Second thing he said, Regan, I want you to spend more time in nature. He said, tell everybody that, because that's God's gift to us. We can all tell when we're walking in a forest or we're on a beach walking. We naturally go to these places. We don't even know why we're going, but we go and we chill. It's one thing that helps us to relax, to balance all the negative stuff we have to go through. And I saw myself walking in the forest. I saw sand going down through. Okay, just like when I said the prayer, I saw sand going down through. Third thing he said was do as many random acts of kindness as you can. He says that balances people out too. And in my mind, I was walking into a 7-Eleven store, convenience store. Someone threw a Snickers wrapper on the ground and I picked it up, put it in the trash. And I saw sand going down. Okay. Just to show you, even the littlest thing sometimes can keep us flowing and keep that love coming through us in our body. And the fourth thing was, he said, do something that's common sense. He says there are a lot of techniques that therapists use to ground themselves. He says, so talk to a number of therapists and use some of the techniques to just ground yourself so that, when you're hearing so many of these horrible stories that people go through, you don't keep it to yourself. You just let it go through you, that way. So those are the four things. And so far, I'm like, say, 77 and I'm not on any pain meds or anything right now, although my legs hurting a little bit from golfing for 3 times this week. In between clients, I've been out golfing. It's my thing, and I'm loving it. So I'm trying to keep myself healthy too. Also, too, I want to mention one other thing too. Matter of fact, Michael, she would be even a good person to have on your show. She's at the forefront of new technology of healing, and she has taken an invention that was invented in Russia in the 90s that became so popular with healing people that all the Olympic athletes used it. The cosmonauts used it in space. She came over here from Russia to work with NASA for 10 years. Then the astronauts were on it. It's a device. I bought one for myself, and you put electrodes on your wrist, and in 2 minutes, it goes through your whole body, and it shows you a graph, a circle, and it'll show you any of your organs that are out of balance. And then what she has done, this genius of a doctor she is, she's added artificial intelligence to this thing. And so now for 30 minutes, AI knows the correct frequency of everything that's out of balance in your body and sends them all. And what it does is it opens all the passageways that have been blocked in your body, energy blocks, opens them all up so your body can naturally get in there and start working and healing itself. My friend Alden had cancer sticking out of his neck. His wife found out about this machine. He went she had to drive him 100 miles, 100 miles one way, 100 miles back. Did it 14 times. He goes in to shave one morning. There's no lump there anymore. So he runs to the oncologist. And long story short, they ended up doing a 3.5-hour surgery. Couldn't find one cancer cell. It's been 5 years now. He's been cancer free. Pneumonicore, just got his body that way. I tried it on our housekeeper, has scleroderma, because she has a hard time with her finger. Scleroderma is a disease there's no cure for. Your body slowly hardens like cement, and eventually some part of you hardens and you just die. There's no cure for it. So I did 3 sessions with her on it for free for her because she's our housekeeper. And now she's moving her fingers again, and she says her pain's gone in her stomach. So something's going on with this. But it's called Monicor, Monicor USA. But Dr. Luba, she's been doing a number of podcasts and things. Actually, I've been on Coast to Coast 3 times now, and she's been on twice. Because they just want someone. It's another thing that everything's changing now. We're changing on religion. We're changing on diet. We're changing on all these new things about health that we're learning about. This is an exciting. People are scared a bit, but this is, to me, I'm so glad to be alive right now because Michael, all of us, we're right now witnessing. We're like been waiting for so many thousands of years, they say, for this change to happen, and here we are as all this change has taken place. So from when you were a child until you're my age or something now, the changes are going to be with AI and everything coming in now. It's just who would have never thought of it even 10 years ago that so much changes would be happening, but it is. you know. So anyway, what I want to do before we're done here is just tell people now I do these sessions online. Like I say, still 90% success rate. I usually should clarify that with say within 1 or 2 sessions. With women, it's pretty much 90%. With men, it's like 80, 85% because we have a little less time being vulnerable and kind of allowing ourselves to relax. We're too wound up sometimes as guys. So like me, it took me a second time. At first time, I just couldn't relax enough. But the second time, I jittered a little bit. It was a little touchy, but luckily I had a really good therapist, Michael Newton trained therapist. I actually had two there. I had a newbie like me, and then I had the guy that had been doing it for 10 years. So when we ran into a few roadblocks the second time, he was able to get me through those, and then I had that life changing experience. And again, I'll send everybody the free. Actually, I'll send a book called "Reincarnation is Real" for free to them. It's the ebook version of it, and also the ebook version of 3 hours 33 minutes in heaven. Um, but also the best book to read if you want to know more about this and read case histories is Journey of Souls. There's a million copies out there. You can get them on used books sometimes for $5 or $6, but it's in like eight or 10 different languages. You can get it on Audible. Also Destiny of Souls, or the latest book that us therapists have written that just came out last year, because we're all over the world now as therapists doing this. It's called Finding Purpose. And you can find that online too, or go to newtoninstitute.org and you can order it from there. And that's the current book about all the latest stuff that's going on right now. So there's lots of things, lots of information. Also, there's 18 books Dolores Cannon wrote from QHHT. Oh my gosh. Um, if we do another show in the future, I want to talk about all this alien stuff. It's going to probably, as it's all kind of happening now, if I come back in 6 months or a year, we're going to be in the midst of it all. And I can tell you, I've had so many clients that have been on other planets, on spaceships, on other dimensions. Um, and my old paradigms are breaking up like crazy as I'm finding out all this stuff. But it's research, folks, and I'm just the person talking about what we're finding, and we are finding stuff. So I'm happy to help any of your podcast people listening, and I want to thank you, for having me on your show, Michael. And you're a joy. I can tell you've got a good sense of humor. You're a nice guy, a good guy to be fun to have a beer with, if
Oh
you're
yeah,
drinking beer. I'm
and
trying to, I have a lot of clients. I've gone to a lot of AA meetings. So, a lot of my clients have had me help them get off of or recover, to help them recover being alcoholics or lose weight. Actually, the house I'm staying in right now, one of my first clients back when, and she was, I think, 220 at the time, and she used to be a ballerina, but she had gotten to 220 and was feeling horrible. And I did a couple regular therapy sessions with her, and we slowly got her in a good diet. And anyway, she's maintained. I think she's 118 now for many years. And she always says, "Oh, you helped me get there," but it's hypnosis. It's not me. It's just these modalities, really work for people.
all right. And I do have one last question for you because we talked about the council and we kind of talked around, but is the council your picking or is the council assigned and already there waiting for you?
That's another really good question. Every council I've had so far in these 400 have been different. Okay. And they're always, it seems to be that the council, they know all about you. So the proper council shows up for you that knows exactly, like the life coaches that specialize in what your issues are, show up. I had one recently and had an alien gray on the council. That was very interesting. So I had my client, it was a woman. I said, ask him, why is there an alien gray on the council? That's kind of unusual. And they said to show her that, when that all beings, when they pass away, all beings come back to source. Doesn't matter if you're an alien gray or whatever, eventually you go back home, when you drop that suit and, you go back to this energy. So because she had a lot of questions about aliens and things, and they just happened to know that in advance, I guess, because, that answered one of her big questions when that happened there too. Um, yeah, I can talk to you about clients that find themselves as reptilians on other planets. I've had so many. I'll tell you, I'm living vicariously through them, but I have them take me to their planet and tell me all kinds of stuff about their planet. So in my mind now, I have to see all these different beings and all these different planets and things, um, and they're coming pretty quick here. It's like they say the grown-ups are coming.
I
um,
love it.
I did. I had I had a being from another planet that was actually channeling through one of my clients to me recently, and when we start talking politics, he through my client, he's channeling, and he just laughing his head off, and he said, "So childish." This thing we're going through. He says, "Just you guys are just kids. Like, wake up. Come on." You know. So anyway, but that would make another thing. Just talking about the what we've learned in these sessions about that we incarnate all over the universe. Some people only on Earth. We ask that question, and about 30% of the people, when I ask the question, "Have you ever incarnated another planet or dimension?" and they'll say yes, and they'll say, "Wow, when I count to three, I want you to take me to there and describe your planet or something." So we're getting lots of information about that too, and preparing everybody that change is a coming. And the Pope even said, "Well, if they come here, we're going to convert them to Christ." So you know,
Yeah, good luck with that.
yeah, I know. But one other thing too, because when I'm making jokes and I say Christ or something, I'm not. My Christians that come to me, I always have them speak directly with Jesus, and Jesus is real. Jesus is amazing. He's probably one of the highest evolved souls that there is, at least that we know about, and so much full of love that when people are in His presence, they have questions for Him. Sometimes they can't even ask the questions because the love is so much. They're just crying their eyes out right in front of me sometimes. Because they feel the love and they feel direct. And He always tells them, every single person that's been Christian so far, He says the same thing to them. He says, "Look, I'm as close as your heart is." Okay. He says, "If you think about me, I'm there with you." Okay. And it's just about love and kindness and joy. Buddha's the same way. Buddha, one time, he's in front of my client. And my client says, "Well, I'm Christian, but I was curious about Buddha." So Buddha shows up and he's this swirling ball of purple and blue. And she goes, "Oh my God, it's him." You know, but the way she's describing him, he didn't look like, the statues or anything like this. He's this thing. So Buddha then goes from his forehead to hers, sends a tube about an inch and a half, 2 inches of purple from his forehead right into her forehead. So she's laying on the table and she just keeps saying, "Whoa, whoa, my God, whoa, whoa." She could feel that. And when she came out of trance, we're talking later, she says, "Regan, I feel like my head is like 10 feet this way." He says, "I felt so much love." I says, "I almost couldn't handle it. It was exploding me with love from Buddha." So there's just nothing but love and kindness, and no darkness and stuff over there. Nothing to fear. Fear is what keeps you from evolving. We have to just trust that you're well taken care of, and do your praying or your meditating. And I'll leave them with this one final thing. People ask, "What's the best spiritual practice that I can have?" If all religions are okay, the one you choose is okay, but love and kindness is the main religion. When we ask about a spiritual practice, 100% of the time they say meditation. Okay, because when people meditate, they go from beta to alpha. They go from beta waves, the waves get like this, and they get close to what we're getting people to when they go to the afterlife. So it lessens the space between here and the afterlife. So their intuition is there. People have visions sometimes. People have out of body experiences when they're doing that. So that's the closest way as human beings that we can consciously work on connecting to the other side is meditation. Or just call it deep prayer if there were meditate. Pretty much anymore, meditation is accepted. But I remember 20 years ago, meditation, oh, that's Western, and prayer is the thing. Same thing.
Right.
When you're deep in prayer, read the books of the saints and everything. They would go deep in prayer and they'd have out of body experiences like Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint John of the Cross, and they wrote about their out of body experiences when they would be able to be in Jesus's presence themselves, just like we're having people be in the presence of Jesus now too. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that too, because I just, I grew up Catholic and I just got a bunch of Catholic jokes, but it was good for me growing up Catholic because I got to see, help me to see both sides of things. So
Right. And I had the
anyway,
benefit of having a Catholic dad and a Lutheran mom, so you
oh,
know what that
perfect.
was like.
Yeah, perfect mix. I've had a lot of people who was, Catholic and Jewish, are that way, but uh, yeah, it's all good. My brother is, oh my God, he's an amazing man, and he's helping bring people to Christ, and he does it in a good way. He helps people wake up to something better than himself, so he's doing really great. And my sister and brother-in-law, same thing. I mean, just beautiful people, and Christ is perfect in their life, and it's made them to be these beautiful people. So, it's all good. It's all good. It's
Well,
just know that the picture is bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
right. Well, I definitely will have you on sooner than 6 months, and it'll probably be on another show that I have that's on usually on Wednesday nights.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
it's called Riding Through the Unknown, and that one I feel like will be the perfect audience for your
Oh,
ET and
yeah,
everything
yeah,
kind of talk, because that one that's where we more talk about that. And
yeah.
I want to say thank you for sharing this with us and
Sure.
doing this. And I actually have a message for you that I like to do at the end of my shows. And that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity. Thank you for dispelling the fear. Thank you for being you. It's seen, felt, and heard. So thank you.
Thank you too, Michael. You're doing a good job, and just keep it up. Keep that smile. You got a great smile.
Oh,
Good,
thank
good there.
you.
And made it fun today. So thank you so much, and thank you out there. And anybody wants to get a hold of me, go to the visittheafterlife.com and get a hold of me. I'll be happy to help you wherever you are. Okay, everywhere, anywhere in the world now we can do these sessions. So it's great.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody in the chat room and everyone watching. And do like, subscribe, and follow along, because you never know when Regan will making another appearance on this show or another show. So make sure you follow along so you don't miss out, and keep the hope. And as Regan's pointed out, keep the love too, and live the days with love. And with that, I am going to say good night, and we're going to call it a night. And we definitely will have to get a part two, because I feel like there's just so many more questions
Oh,
that
there's a
people want
lot
to
more I didn't
ask.
cover. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, Michael.
So thank you, and we're going to say good night to everyone.